Forget everything you think you know about motorcycles, because the machines you are about to witness were never designed to obey the normal laws of engineering, safety, or even common sense. These are not ordinary bikes built for comfortable highway rides or weekend cruises. They are rolling experiments born from obsession, desperation, madness, and pure mechanical ambition. What happens when brilliant engineers stare directly at the strict laws of physics and decide they simply do not care anymore? You get some of the most bizarre, terrifying, and dangerously fascinating motorcycles ever created in human history. Today, we are opening the forbidden archives to uncover 10 unbelievable machines that pushed engineering far beyond sanity itself. From a horrifying motorcycle with a spinning aircraft engine built directly into its front wheel, to a tiny Vespa scooter transformed into a flying anti-tank weapon dropped from military aircraft, and finally to an earth-shaking V8 monster that feels more like a guided missile than a motorcycle. This journey only gets crazier with every machine. Make sure you stay all the way to the end, because the final creation is something so absurd it barely feels real. Now let us travel back to 1920s Germany, where one machine challenged everything humanity understood about motorcycle design. The Megola looked like something engineered by a mad scientist rather than a sane mechanic. Imagine taking a massive 5-cylinder air-cooled radial aircraft engine and shoving it directly inside the front wheel of a motorcycle. Not beside the wheel, not under the frame, inside the actual wheel itself. Even more unbelievably, the bike had no clutch and no conventional transmission whatsoever. The crankshaft remained completely stationary while the 5 engine cylinders spun together with the front wheel like some giant mechanical blender racing down the road. The result was both genius and terrifying. Because the motorcycle had no clutch, it could never simply sit still with the engine running. If you approached a red light in busy Munich traffic, you only had 2 terrible options. You could shut the engine off completely and painfully push start the machine again afterward, or you could continue riding in dizzying circles in the middle of the street until the light turned green. Riding the Megola demanded raw courage, physical endurance, and nerves of steel just to survive daily traffic. It was unstable, loud, mechanically insane, and utterly dangerous. Yet despite all its obvious flaws, nearly 2,000 of these bizarre motorcycles were actually built during that wild era of mechanical experimentation. Today, only a handful are believed to survive anywhere in the world, transforming these once-feared death traps into priceless holy grails of engineering history. Whenever one appears at auction, collectors are willing to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars just to own a surviving piece of this unhinged mechanical dream. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic Ocean in America, engineer Carl Narraker was attacking an entirely different problem. Instead of raw power, he focused on stability and balance. Traditional motorcycles at the time suffered from dangerously high centers of gravity, especially on rough dirt roads, so Narraker created something radically different called the Neocar. This machine featured an absurdly low stance, a stamped steel unibody chassis, and one of the earliest examples of hub-center steering technology ever attempted on a production motorcycle. Unlike normal front forks, the Neocar used an entirely different steering geometry that gave riders extraordinary stability even on terrible roads. In fact, the handling was so stable that riders could confidently remove their hands from the handlebars while cruising over rough terrain. But when the American motorcycle world first saw this strange enclosed machine, they laughed at it mercilessly. Its low profile and unusual bodywork made people dismiss it as a weak toy instead of a serious motorcycle. That public humiliation continued until legendary endurance rider Erwin "Cannonball" Baker stepped in during 1922 and completely shattered all criticism forever. Baker rode a Neocar across the entire United States from New York to Los Angeles in only 174 brutal hours, surviving thousands of miles of rough, unpaved roads that destroyed many vehicles of the era. His incredible journey proved that this bizarre machine was not just some strange engineering experiment. It was durable, stable, and shockingly capable. Even though the company eventually disappeared, the revolutionary hub-center steering concept refused to die. Decades later, engineers would continue revisiting the same brilliant idea because Narraker had been far ahead of his time. redefining motorcycle balance and weight distribution generations before the rest of the industry finally caught up.